What is the riskiest thing you've done in public? Rock hopping in Morecambe Bay during low tide. Me and a buddy were hopping on rocks in the sea to see who could get further. We must have got 3/4 of a mile out when my buddy poked me in the ribs. I looked behind me and we were trapped on a rock surrounded by the frothy angry sea. The tide came in around us. Needless to say, I have not felt fear and panic so bad as that day. Kick the knife out of a tweaker's hand. I actually pulled a hamstring while doing it, but it probably saved me from getting more severe injuries. Back in high school, I gave myself an erection through my pants to prove to someone I didn't have a tiny dick. Not me, but when I was teenager at my first job grocery store, a coworker came into the break room looking depressed as hell and told me flat out she'd just given a blowjob to a complete stranger against the side of the store in broad daylight. I think it was a cry for help because she was a pretty lonely gal and looked ashamed to have done it. I was too young and surprised to do anything other than say oh, okay and leave. Run around my street naked. Parents were away on holidays, so me and my partner stayed at parents for a few days. One evening my partner challenged me to a game of naked darts and loser had to streak up and around the street 9 p.m. Sadly I lost to her, so not to look a chicken I did it, and who did I bump into on my return was my mum's best. Were mortified when they found out. Probs doing drugs in a club in a country where there is a death penalty. Drive. Every day. Just trusting complete strangers not to be idiots. Ran for a seat in our state's legislature during the intensity of the pandemic 2020. I lost. This post is definitely fishing for stories about public sex. I pushed when it said pull. Littered when I was younger. I have changed. Fingered a girl at work. We definitely could have been walked in on. It also was that day I found out I like biting, especially my neck. Went to jury duty on a 35 mg edible. That was wild. Gave a blowjob in Central Park on the late night. What was supposed to be a romantic night turned into a freak fest. Finger banged my girlfriend on a ride at Disney World. Wasn't concerned about it until I remembered there's a camera that takes pictures, lol. I was hitting my ex-GF from the back on a hiking trail and a runner ran past and was like, Jesus Christ, you. Sex in a parking lot stairwell. I was young, but not too young. Had sex with a girl I was dating in the commons area of her dorm in the middle of the day. The commons had the TV and stuff. We laid in the spoon position with a blanket over us. I gave the all sport position while people walked in and out of the commons, even had some of our friends stop by and talk to us. It was a struggle to keep my erection going, but she loved this kind of stuff. Finger banged my ex-girlfriend in the public movie theater. When I worked at a grocery store in my teens, we'd smoke blunts in the freezer at the end of our shift. Fast forward to when I had an office job and I had a fat edible that I thought was only 10 mg but ended up being like 50 mg. I was reviewing videos for candidates we were hiring, and one candidate did their intro with a song and they sounded horrendous. Needless to say, I laughed for a solid 10 minutes straight and my boss was just giving me this weird side eye. I think she knew, but we never talked about it. I finished in a girl in public behind some trees on the side of the road. Pretty certain we weren't seen. She said she was on BC. Turns out she was not, after she called me up a month later and told me she was late and had skipped her BC for a while. I was very scared. I was about to be a dad with a girl I barely knew for about 2 months. Dodged the biggest bullet of my life there. Moral of the story. Wrap it before you tap it, even if she says it's all good, boys. Tie between sex and picking an argument while outnumbered. Mooned the Mao portrait at Tiananmen Square. Having sex in the bushes at the park while it was 2 p.m. Walk around, go to work out with a vibrator in me. It was just in one day and never did it since then. IDKY, but did it LMAO. Good thing I have a pretty strict looking resting face. Nobody probably noticed something was off other than probably my brothers, who most likely assumed I was just under the weather. Fucked on the beach in Galveston, Texas. Fire. Gave several guys blowjobs in their cars in parking lots in broad daylight. Gave another guy a blowjob on a hiking trail in the woods in broad daylight. A lady jogger kept circling by and we'd have to listen for her and be ready to pretend we were looking for something in the bushes every time she came back. All during college. All fun times. Poop with the door stall unlocked. Super risky. I've eaten loose Cheetos off the sidewalk at a bus stop in San Francisco. Sex on the Star Ferry between Hong Kong and Kowloon. Me and my wife were camping. AMD were walking around the lake on acid. We stopped, got frisky, and a lady walked right by us and we didn't notice until she had already passed us. Good times. This is many years. Through careful planning, stole $100,000 in cash from an entity that wouldn't be hurt by it. Completely got away with it. If it matters, I did it to help someone. They needed $50,000 and I kept the rest. Same punishment for $50,000 as $100,000, so. Wear a top showing underboob. I drive a hazmat tanker and haul 8k gallons of ethanol. So that's probably the most dangerous thing I do every day. All kinds of public sex, I guess. Pretty sure I got caught when my boyfriend was driving his muscle car and I got turned on and decided to, well, you know, and a few people must have seen in and started honking. Just glad none of them were a cop. I miss my 20s. I work as a fire entertainer, so I have some risk every day in front of people. Even if we have spotters and extinguishers, I still feel the adrenaline and wish everything goes well before a show. And jump over a little cliff on a road trip with friends knowing I'm not good at swimming. Trusted a fart. Spoke on stage in front of several thousand people. Scared shitless, but I killed it. Ex-GF and I fucked in a bar men's room, a club women's room, and her back porch. Another GF gave me a blowjob in a tanning booth, and yet another and I fucked in a cemetery. I did not do this but witnessed it. I was at Sasquatch Music Festival in Washington at the Gorge, and a couple of people had climbed up this hill and onto the other side of the barrier and were having sex. The Decemberists had started to play their set and they were confused why no one was looking towards the stage. Turns out everyone could see them fucking and we all watched until security went and got them down. Had a MFFM foursome on a small art car at Burning Man. Never seen any of them since. Fingered an ex-girlfriend in class in high school. I had sex in a college library to a college I didn't go to. Had sex on top of an abandoned medieval tower in southern France during a thunderstorm next to a lightning rod. Walking through the outdoor instead of the in. Some soft sex in the middle of wines-filled LMAO. Got a blow job in a movie theater. I still come a little every time that machine cuts Will Smith's house in half in iRobot. Saturday night nudie long distance run from Bundle on the Gold Coast to Surfers Paradise Beach and back. It was in December 1995 from memory. I was 19. I was so stoned I can only recall the highlights. Didn't see an Aussie police officer the whole way, thankfully. Got back home to my two housemates who informed me that the other three blokes who started out with me had bailed 3 minutes into the run. Pussies. Used to inject meth while driving. Luckily I've been clean for 3 years and no longer drive under the influence of anything. It's a miracle I didn't kill myself or anyone.